Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Coaster News. And obviously, as always, we've got some amazing news from different theme parks, rides and attractions all over the world. So let's just get straight into the news today. Our top story for tonight, Tron Lightcycle Run has officially started testing at Walt Disney World in Magic Kingdom. And I don't mean like pull-through testing, which I think I'd reported about before. I mean like proper full speed testing where it's flying around the track and whatnot. I think they've said it's going to be their fastest roller coaster at Walt Disney World. Although I'm pretty sure they said that Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind was going to be faster than Rock and Roller Coaster, which is their current fastest operating roller coaster. How fast it's going to be, we don't know. But this isn't about Guardians of the Galaxy. This is about Tron. Obviously, it's a near clone of Tron Lightcycle Power Run at Shanghai Disneyland. And I say near clone and not exact clone because there's a few like theming differences and whatnot. One major difference being that they've not added the Tron logo onto the side of the facade. They've added it as like a little centerpiece on the pathway that you walk to enter the ride. So there's a few differences in there in terms of layout of the design. There's no differences in the layout of the actual coaster itself. It's the same layout as the one in Shanghai, but there's like a few theming differences. Obviously, it's got the Walt Disney World Railroad basically going underneath the ride into a tunnel, and that train hasn't actually operated for about 4 or 5 years since they started building Tron Lightcycle Run. It's been closed since because they've been building this new ride, and obviously since then they've actually added a tunnel that basically covers up the whole of the train track in order to make it so that I'm not sure what's going to happen in the tunnel. I'm not sure if they're going to add some like new theming or if this is going to be like a blank tunnel. I don't know, but it's been closed for the past few years to make way for the new coaster. But obviously, when Tron opens, so will the Walt Disney World Railroad. Because I remember I actually went on it before they started building Tron, and that whole site they hadn't even broken ground yet. It was back in 2017. It was all just grassland, and that was like probably the last time I went on it because that was back in 2017. Next time I went to Disney World, they started building this massive roller coaster, and obviously the weird thing was at the start of that visit, it went on for about 3 weeks that holiday. They'd only started building like some of the indoor track sections and the like show building of it, and then later on, like a couple of weeks later, they started building the outdoor track. And I think I remember seeing a track section being placed that was going from the outdoor section into the building, and that's probably when they completed the track. So I remember that not long after, I heard like a news article saying track has now been completed on Tron Lightcycle Run. That was in 2019, and they've only just started testing. I know it's weird, but obviously I think it's because of like COVID and whatnot that's delayed them from actually testing it. I'm not entirely sure what the reason is, but now they've actually started doing full speed testing of the launch and whatnot, and it looks incredible. Obviously, we know it's the same layout as Tron Lightcycle Power Run at Shanghai Disneyland. I think it's going to be the exact same speed as well. But it looks incredible. Obviously, not everyone of us enthusiasts have been to China to go to Shanghai Disneyland and experience Tron Lightcycle Power Run, which obviously looks like one of the most incredibly amazing themed roller coaster experiences on the planet. So the fact that a lot of coaster enthusiasts who live in the US are getting a clone of it, or at least a near clone of it, in Florida, that'll be amazing. And even for some of people from the UK and other countries that go to Disney World, but not to Shanghai Disneyland, so that's obviously going to be amazing. Hopefully one day if I return to Disney World, I'll be able to ride it and I'll show you. But until then, it started testing and it looks insane. And obviously it's been built right next to Space Mountain, and it's part of the long ever-going refurbishment of Tomorrowland, because the weird thing about Tomorrowland is that it always repeatedly becomes outdated, which is why when they built Disneyland Paris in 1992, they didn't even call it Tomorrowland, they called it Discoveryland. They gave it like a steampunk theme to like the Jules Verne novels and things like that, so it never becomes outdated, it's always timeless. Whereas with Tomorrowland, it's supposed to be based on the future, which always, the future is always happening and therefore always becomes outdated. Because when I went to Tomorrowland, it was all like 80s sort of future predictions and whatnot. It was just like, this is what they think the future is. But obviously, they've been updating it by obviously adding some new signage for the Tomorrowland portal, entrance portal, and building this new Tron roller coaster, which obviously looks amazing. Because obviously, in most Disney theme parks, in Tomorrowland, or Discoveryland for Disneyland Paris, you've got Space Mountain, which obviously is in most of them, or in Shanghai Disneyland, you've got Tron Lightcycle Power Run. Thankfully, with Disney World, it's got both of them at once. Space Mountain is actually turning 50 years old in 2025, I think it is, yeah. That's going to be the first ever Space Mountain. I wouldn't be surprised if within the next couple of years they refurbish Space Mountain to make it seem more modern or something like that, because it's quite an old ride. I remember when I went on it, there was some old like special effects that needed updating, so for the 50th anniversary I hope they refurbish it and give it an update. That would be amazing, especially to coincide with the current refurbishment of Tomorrowland, which will never end at this rate, unless they spend millions of dollars refilming it to Discoveryland and to make it timeless like the one in Disneyland Paris. Then I don't know what they're going to do other than to keep repeatedly making Tomorrowland construction sites. But yeah, that's obviously very weird. The Tron roller coaster is going to be incredible for them. It's going to be hugely impactful for Tomorrowland, because the Tron roller coaster is based on the Tron Legacy film from 2010, and it still looks extremely futuristic like 12 years on. So it's crazy. Obviously, the Tron Legacy film I think is like a sequel from the original Tron movie, which is from like 1980s, but that's kind of got outdated, whereas the new one is like really futuristic. So it's a good thing they decided to theme the Tron Lightcycle Power Run to the one from 2010 and not the one from the 80s, because that would just be weird, honestly. But I think when the Tron Lightcycle Run opens at Disney World, it's going to be a massive step forward for them. But there's a lot of rumours saying it could be delayed until 2023. I mean, at the rate they're going with the construction, I don't think that's likely. I think it could open even like probably like mid to late summer or something like that. At the rate it's going, because the facade of it, like the canopy building, which is really iconic for the ride, seems to be going along quite well. They've started testing the ride, obviously, which is an amazing achievement. And everything seems to be nearly done. I think it could all be finished within the next few months, so that'll be amazing to see. In other news today, Europa Park have revealed the layout of their upcoming Mack Big Dipper for 2023. And this is actually quite an anticipated ride. I think it's been in the pipeline, in the planning stages for a few years now, a couple of years. I've heard things about it over the past couple of years, but I didn't think it was going to really sort of be a major thing. Well, I did think it was going to be a major thing because it's a new coaster, but I didn't think it was like not going to happen for many years. I know that all I knew up until recently was that Europa Park were planning a new roller coaster for 2023, and I think that's what anyone knew, to be honest, that they were planning a new roller coaster for that year. But it was a couple of years ago that they first announced it, and they hadn't really heard much since. That is until a few weeks ago, a few months ago actually, I think like February this year or something like that, when they announced that they are planning to build a Mack Big Dipper in a new area of the park, which is themed to Croatia, for the 2023 season. So obviously it sounds like it's going to be really amazing. Obviously, Europa Park is actually Mack Rides' basically their testing ground for new and innovative rides. Even though some of the rides are built by other manufacturers, like Silver Star is built by B&M and things like that. It's pretty much a testing ground, because it's home to some of Mack Rides' first rides. Like, it's home to the original Blue Fire, which I think was Mack Rides' first attempt at a multi-launch coaster. Well, not multi-launch because it's only got the one launch, but it's probably their first attempt at like a major launch coaster, from what I've heard. And obviously they've got the Eurosat roller coaster, I think, which is their first spinning coaster, I think it were. So obviously and that's pretty much their testing ground for new rides, especially since obviously it's owned by the Mack family and Mack Rides themselves, so that makes it even more unique. And now their new roller coaster is going to add to their pipeline of amazing and innovative and probably immersive thrill rides as well. It's going to be a Mack Rides Big Dipper. This is not actually the first Big Dipper roller coaster we've seen. I think the first one was Lost Gravity at Walibi Holland, which opened in 2016. That was the first ever Mack Rides Big Dipper. If you don't know what a Mack Rides Big Dipper is, it's not actually a wooden coaster at all. In case you thought of like Big Dipper, because there's like some wooden coasters out there called Big Dipper. But no, it's actually it's a bit of a weird ride. It's similar to like a B&M dive coaster and a Gerstlauer Eurofighter. It's or something like an S&S El Loco type ride. It's very weird. Obviously, it doesn't have a beyond vertical drop, but it's capable of very weird maneuvers and twists and turns and inversions. And the first one to open was Lost Gravity at Walibi Holland. That was in 2016. And then another one opened a few years later at another park somewhere in, I don't even know what it was. It was called Dynamite. It was in 2019. And now Mack Rides are building a new Mack Rides Big Dipper for 2023 at Europa Park in Germany. And I actually originally thought, I don't know why I thought this, but I originally thought that both the current Mack Rides Big Dippers that existed had the same layout, because there's only like 2 of them in the entire world, with the third one being built at Europa Park, obviously. But then I realised that Dynamite Big Dipper at a park that I don't even know the name of, I don't even know what country it's somewhere in Europe, has a different layout to Lost Gravity, so they can have custom layouts. There's not like certain models of them that have like specific layouts, which is why, as you can see at the planning documents on the screen, the layout of the new Mack Rides Big Dipper at Europa Park is quite different than Lost Gravity or Dynamite, and it looks quite thrilling as well. It's got some amazing unique inversions and things like that, and it looks to be a great new addition for Europa Park, and it's part of a new Croatia themed area, because obviously Europa Park are one of those theme parks in Europe that like to put every single detail into their theming, and it's really immersive. Their themed lands are themed to like different countries all around the world. So they've got Switzerland's, they've got, I don't even know what other ones they've got. I've watched the Europa Park story, but I can't even remember half the countries. They've got Switzerland. I remember that one because they have the bobsled coaster, which I also can't remember the name of. They've got a few of them, and obviously the newest one is a Croatia themed area, which I thought existed before, but then I realised I think it's a whole new area. Obviously it's incredible what they're doing, and I can't wait for this new ride to open at Europa Park. I think their last roller coaster was in, I think it was the Arthur roller coaster that was in like 2017 or something like that. So it's going to be, I think it's their first major thrill ride since, I don't even know, probably since Blue Fire or something like that. That was the last major thrill roller coaster, I think. I'm not sure, but it's been quite a while since we built a major thrill coaster. So that's going to be amazing for Europa Park, and I can't wait for it to open. Also in the news today, Wild River Rapids has officially opened at Fantasy Islands in Inglemells. And obviously this ride, we didn't know it was going to be happening until like a couple of months ago when they announced it. Fantasy Island seems to be getting a lot of rides recently, and I know some of them are travelling rides and others are like permanent. Things like the Guardian and Harrington Flint's Island Adventures, those are permanent rides, but things like Spinning Racer and Ice Mountain were temporary. It's kind of like a mixture between a permanent amusement park and a kind of a fairground, because they get temporary rides that only last a few months. Like last year they had Spinning Racer, which was a new Maura spinning coaster that was, as I later found out, was travelling. So when I went to Fantasy Island in September, I was wondering where's Spinning Racer, and then I realised it was travelling, so I didn't get to go on it, which was really sad. I apparently went to another country somewhere or something like that. But obviously they've got a new ride for this year called Wild River Rapids. I'm not sure if this one's travelling or not, but apparently it was relocated from Lightwater Valley. Because basically in 2019 they had an incident on their Twister coaster, which was a Revachon spinning coaster. And pretty much since that incident, Like Water Valley have basically been trying to make a new target audience for children that are 12 and under. And that involved removing all of their big thrilling rides, except for the Ultimate, but that's SB&O, so that's not operating. Other than that, all the other thrill rides have been removed from the park. Raptor Attack got removed, but it's being relocated to a park in Texas somewhere. The Twister, which was the rides that, or was it Treetop Twister? I can't remember what the name of it is. Something Twister, got completely demolished for obvious reasons. Obviously the Ultimate is SB&O, and Wild River Rapids has been relocated to Fantasy Island, new for this year. Now, whether this is a permanent ride or if it's temporary, I don't know. We'll find out by the end of the year if it's gone or not. But it looks like a good water ride. I think it's similar to Storm Surge at Fort Park. Obviously, I know it's not like the same ride type. Well, I don't think it is, but it's very similar in like size and layout and things like that. But it looks really good. Although whether this is permanent or not, I'm not entirely sure, because it looks like it's not like that loads of theming around it, so it looks like one of those rides that are travelling. But I don't know, we'll find out in a few months if it's gone. But it looks like a great new addition for Fantasy Islands and another lineup of their water rides. And finally in the news today, Passholder previews have now started for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at EPCOT. And obviously, I mean, sure, it hasn't officially opened yet. It's opening like later, in just over a month from now. But Passholder previews have started, I think, at EPCOT, or at least cast member previews or something like that. And obviously, people have been waiting a very long time to ride this ride since it was announced in 2017 when they announced the Universe of Energy rides. That's the Ellen's Energy Adventure Dark Ride was closing to make way for a new Guardians of the Galaxy themed roller coaster, which they later announced would be a Vekoma spinning coaster, which would feature, I think it was going like the world's first backwards launch or something like that. So obviously it was a unique coaster in itself. On top of that, I think they've also said there's going to be the world's most expensive roller coaster at $500 million or something like that. And it was going to be faster than Rock and Roller Coaster, which is Disney World's current fastest operating roller coaster. It does have the potential to be the fastest ride in the park, even faster than Test Track, which is their current fastest ride at 65 miles an hour. But obviously, until then, they've got Passholder previews or cast member previews for the ride, and obviously, there's no cameras allowed on the ride. I think the only areas that are allowed cameras were in the I think the cameras are allowed up until as far as the Galaxarium area, which is like a pre-show for the ride, which they put a lot of effort and detail into, as always. It just looks like it's like a pre-show exploring the different planets of the universe and things like that. I think cameras were allowed up until that point, and then there were no cameras allowed. But apparently the coaster itself is incredible and amazing ride. How they're going to pull off the immersive theming, I have no idea, because it's not got virtual reality. But obviously Disney are obviously well known for pulling off immersive theming, but this is like an all indoor ride with lights off, and from the pictures we've seen of inside the ride, I've not seen much theming, but those pictures were at least a year old, so they probably added some new theming, because it's supposed to be themed like you're flying through space, through time, trying to save the galaxy from something that's causing everything to disappear. So obviously it looks really amazing, and it's opening on 27th of May next month, so that's going to be incredible, and I can't wait to see the first ever on-ride POVs of Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at EPCOT. So yeah, that is it for this week's episode of Coast News. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, then please make sure to like and subscribe, and comment if you like to see the next video. Bye!